Mario Kart World's been out for about a month now, and I've had plenty of enough time to play on every track in this beautiful game. After having the pleasure, or the pain, of playing every map, I thought it was about time I ranked all these tracks before Schafrillas could do it. Hopefully I finished in time to make that true, but even if I didn't, here's the real, true, definitive ranking of every track in Mario Kart World. Let's get started by talking about the worst track in the game, shall we? Chocolate Mountain is easily the most dog shit track in the game, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. This track is called Chocolate Mountain, but what it should really be called is Dog Shit Mountain because it's covered in poo. You can't tell me that the dark brown stuff isn't poo. This track is disgusting. Besides the fact that this track is super ugly, I dislike it even more because this track is the worst reimagining a retro track in its entire game. There was nothing wrong with the original Chocolate Mountain. It was a solid track that I'd select that is an honest B to A tier track. Nothing needed to be changed, but for some reason, they decided to turn it into a generic stadium track that we already have plenty of in this game, and then took a shit on it and called it a day. This is why I have it as the worst track, because it's a disgrace to the old track it is based on. Along with this, the track is also just not very interesting to drive and lacks the nature that most tracks have in this game, which is the super unique and interesting themes. Overall, I do not like this track at all, and will never be picking it again. Matter of fact, it should be flushed down the nearest toilet immediately. Anyways, let's move on. This might come as a shocking spot for Moo Moo Meadows, but let me explain. I am tired of this track being in every single Mario Kart game since its birth. This track lives rent-free in every single game, and quite frankly, I'm tired of this map and those dumb cows. There, I said it. This track isn't even a really good track that deserves to be in every game. It is, in my opinion, one of the most basic and boring tracks to drive in any game it is in. They don't even spice this track up with Mario Kart World flair whatsoever, and even the minimal Mario Kart World exclusive bits on this track are janky. Those fences break half the time when you try to jump on them, and even then the fence paths aren't even worth using. Like, I'm happy they included cow in the game, but it's about time they retire this track because it keeps filling a permanent spot that many other tracks deserve over this extremely basic, boring track. End of story. For Mario Circuit, let's just start by asking yourself, why is this track even in this damn game? What makes the track good in Mario Kart World is all the unique paths you can take, the breathtaking scenery of the tracks, the multiple paths you can take with Mario Kart World exclusive mechanics, the music, and more. This track does none of these things well. This track has got to be one of the most boring in the game, driving-wise, scenery-wise, and music-wise. This track genuinely just feels like a mandatory Mario Circuit track filler spot in this game, and could be replaced by literally any other track in Mario Kart history, or better yet, by a new unique course that this game does so well at. Overall, this track is just boring, repetitive, and could be easily replaceable. What is there to even say about Desert Hills that hasn't already been said by just about every Mario Kart creator out there? This track has been in just about every Mario Kart game, and in every Mario Kart game, it's been one of the most boring tracks ever conceived. Not even Mario Kart World could add any flair to this map to make it better than previous iterations. What more is there to say? The only saving grace is the Moai because they're cool and funny. That's literally the only good part about this track is the Moai. Peach Stadium is a track. That's about it. Peach Stadium is my second least favorite stadium track in the game, beating out the shit stadium, but just because it's better than that god-awful track doesn't make this track good. It's better than D-Rank because there's some unique paths, it uses Mario Kart World's mechanics fine, but other than that, it's a generic stadium track, and there are far better Peach tracks in other games and in this game itself. Easy benchmark C tier track. I also forgot to mention they're in C tier now, not D tier, but yeah, we're in C tier now. Now that all the regular takes are out of the way, we get straight back into the controversial picks with Faraway Oasis at C tier. I don't know what it is about this track, but I don't really like it. I have an inherent bias towards water tracks, as water elements are my least favorite part of this game because of just how hard it can be to control your car on water segments and how straightforward and boring water segments tend to be in this game. This track is fun bits like the waterfall part and the cliff section with all the animals, but other than that, it's a pretty straightforward track with a good theme, but I'm unwilling to put this track higher than a C. I don't dislike it, but it's not one of my favorites, if that makes any sense. It's an okay track, all things considered. And with that, we get into B tier. Because to be honest, in this game, there isn't very many bad tracks at all. It's mainly just like average tracks and good tracks, so now we're starting to get to the average ones. Like the good ones that I actually, pick. Starting off the B tier is Starview Peak. This track's best quality is just how beautiful this track is. The ice, water, and snow galaxy theme is brilliant. This theme just makes for a very nice track to look at, and the music really hits home the vibe of this track. It has a good mix of water and ice bits that look insanely good with the new Switch performance. The reason this track is the start of B tier, however, is because it's not very fun to drive other than what you can see. It lacks multiple paths and that Mario Kart World spice that makes some of these tracks brilliant. In a nutshell, this track is a blessing to look at, but way less fun to drive. Sky High Sunday was easily one of the worst tracks in Mario Kart history, whether you look at the Mario Kart Tour version or the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version. I'm glad I can say that it's not as bad as it was in both of those games in Mario Kart World. This track has had a huge glow up thanks to Mario Kart World's mechanics and how those spice up this track to make it a way less boring track than it used to be. Instead of this track being a glorified oval with mostly straight driving, it is now a track with multiple different paths, including paths with wall riding, paths with rail riding, and classic flight paths. Nintendo did a great job making this track better, but there are far better retro tracks in this game that we have yet to cover that were made better from a spot that was already leaps and bounds ahead of this track. So all I can give this track is a spot at number 22. I feel like I'm going to cop some flack for this 21st place spot because I feel like a lot of people really like this track for its beauty and complex nature of paths found throughout the track. For me, however, I don't really like this track very much. Like, it isn't bad per se, it's just too complex for my liking. This track has like 10 different paths on each of its sections, so I don't know where I'm supposed to go most of the time. Maybe I'm just shit at the game and this track is so low because of skill issue? But I felt the need to chuck it around the middle just because this track looks amazing during the day and especially at night. It also has some fun shortcuts, but other than that, it remains just a solid track. At first, I was going to have this track sitting in the C or D tier, but after playing it more, I was pleasantly surprised and changed my mind. Since this track is a water track, I thought it was guaranteed a low spot, but what saves it is when you aren't driving in the water. I really like the optional paths on this track and all the different funky paths you can take in this little river town. Part of this track that makes it B rather than A is that water segment at the very end and how hard it can be to navigate in the rapid canals of this track. Other than that, a solid start to the top 20. Peach Beach is a classic track that I quite like. I will admit a bit of that light comes from the nostalgia factor of it being in Mario Kart Wii, but what really makes it a B-rank track for me is what they added to make this track better. The second lap is awesome. I love how they made it so you can drive around the Peach Resort rather than making a 3-lap oval like it originally was. The amounts of wall driving paths on this level is insane, and they're really fun to utilize on the second lap. It's my favorite part of the whole track, and of course the cataphracts make a return, which is always a joy. The main thing limiting this track from going any higher is the third lap, which is easily the most boring part of this track, as it's just a straight path water driving, and you know how I feel about those types of segments. But other than that, this track is an improvement over the original, and is at number 19. I originally despised this track at first, so I thought I'd end up ranking this around the C or D tier, but in all honesty, after replaying it for this video, I realized that this track is one of the better mostly water tracks in the game. The waterfall part of this track is really fun with all the alternate paths you can take that involve rail grinding or precise boat drifts and things like that. This track also has great music and sort of reminds me of one of my favorite tracks, Ninja Hideaway. I also love the aesthetic of this track and how it brings in the beauty of Japan's waterfalls and things like that to Mario Kart World. The land bits are a little lackluster, but overall the water segments are awesome, so it deserves this spot at number 18. Shy Guy Bazaar is just like its original track, which was already good to begin with. This track is very simple with some great shortcuts and alternate paths to take if you're feeling up to it. The aesthetic of this track is also just really fun, being a land full of Shy Guys just doing Shy Guy things in the scorching desert. I really just love the overall vibe of this track, and I feel like this would be a cool place to visit type shit. This track is just a simple, fun drive that I see myself picking frequently. What more is there to say? I thought I was going to hate this track because just about the whole course is a boat segment, but to my surprise, this track is actually quite fun, and in my opinion is more fun than the Mario Kart 7 counterparts to this track. What really makes this track appealing is how it looks during the night. In the daytime, this track is pretty generic, but when you get to the nighttime, this track is easily one of the most incredible looking courses in the game with its aesthetic. The gloomy shipyard aesthetic with the lightning and the eerie nature it brings is incredible. I love it. This aspect of the course really carries it because the water segments do kind of suck, but the mash shortcut and the ending shortcut save it in the actual driving component of the track. Unfortunately, this track doesn't squeeze its way into the top half of this ranking, which we're about to get into now. And let's kick it off with Whistletop Summit. I like jumping on rails.
Pause, that shit sounded wild, gay.
Rails are one of my favorite parts of this damn game, and this track has rails everywhere. which makes sense because it's a train station. This track is so simple yet so fun with the amount of shortcuts you can take and alternate paths you can do and all the rail hopping you can do. It's just a blast to play no matter what path you decide to take. This track is like a choose your own adventure course, and if you're skilled enough, you can master this course's best path to make it even better. But even without that, it's still a great course and one of the better original courses in the game. A solid start to the top 15, I'd say. And that ends the B tier. And now we're going to start getting into the A tier with a controversial pick. As for the start of A tier, this one is going to piss everyone off. But let me explain. I love Koopa Troopa Beach. Even if it's just a glorified oval. It has easily one of the best soundtracks in the game. Like the remix of the original song they made for this game did not need to go this hard. Yet it does, and I'm so happy for that. I genuinely picked this course over just about all the ones below it just for the music alone. Koopa Troopa is also one of my favorite characters I like to play in this game, so it's fitting that this track is one of my favorites. I also just like the vibe of this track with the whole theme being this Koopa Troopa rave island that Koopas go to party hard. It's awesome, and the little GJ Koopa is golden. The only reason this course isn't any higher is because I do have to admit that driving this track can be a slog sometimes, and if it weren't for the music, it'd be one of the most boring tracks in the game. I don't care though, this track is started A tier because it's one of my personal favorites. I don't care what anybody thinks, this track is golden, end of story. We are finally at the first DK track, and it's DK Spaceport. This track is just fun with a great design themed around the OG DK arcade game. The Robo DK on this map is awesome, and jumping on rails and hopping off walls repeatedly is really fun. The idea for this track is simply amazing, and it looks especially good at night. This track is a great homage to the classic game and is a very fun track to drive. This track fits Mario Kart World so well with everything is added, so it deserves this high spot at number 13. Now this is where things are going to get controversial again, because we are at DK Pass. Once again, let me explain. I am a DS track fiend because I grew up with Mario Kart DS. I'm glad this track is finally back, and I'm glad it got updated with some great Mario Kart World shenanigans. There are multiple shortcuts on this track that were never there before, like the pole shortcut and the mountain wall ride shortcut that make this track more fun in the OG version. They added rails to the bump section as well, and all in all, I find this track really fun to drive. I love all the sharp turns where you can get rainbow turbos, and it feels awesome. This track is another personal favorite of mine, and to me, it deserves to be this high, even if some people don't really like it. Dry Bones Burnout is everything Bone Dry Dunes should have been. This track is aesthetically gorgeous, and I love the theme this track is going for. The Mexico-inspired track design with the entire track set on a huge dead fish bone, covered in details of Mexican culture, is amazing. This track is easily one of my favorite designs in the game, and I'm a huge Dry Bones fan. So this track gets easy bonus points for being a Dry Bones centered track. The only thing I can really complain about this track is that it's a little bit lacking in the Mario Kart World exclusive mechanics. But other than that, this track is very solid with many different paths to be taken and a really unique design that I love. Unfortunately, it didn't make the top 10, but as of now, we head straight into the top 10 best tracks in Mario Kart World. Boo Cinema is another track that has an absolutely breathtaking design that has never been done before. This track is set in a cinema full of boos. I mean, who could have seen that one coming? I love how this track is just riddled with boos everywhere that are just dancing and vibing around in the cinema. The inclusion of the big goofy boo is the cherry on top in that aspect. The choice by Nintendo to allow you to drive inside a movie and give a retro flair to the graphics is just amazing. I absolutely love that portion of the track. Overall, this track is one of the best designs in the game, but what holds it back from being better is that it isn't the most interesting drive gameplay-wise. It's amazing to look at, don't get me wrong, but it isn't as interesting to actually do 3 laps around, if that makes any sense. Either way, this track slips into the top 10 despite its flaws, just because of how awesome of a design this track has. I love this game's Bowser's Castle. We always get a unique Bowser's Castle in every game, and this has to be one of the best ones we've seen thematically and from an actual racing standpoint. The giant fireballs from Mario Galaxy, the giant Bowser statue, the huge tracks laced with lava, it all combines to make an amazing Bowser's Castle that is super enjoyable to race on and look at. I like how this map also has alternate paths that use rail riding to access higher vantage points and things like that. The use of those turbo zones is definitely at its best on this track because that final stretch where you are going insanely fast is wicked. This track in a way feels like it was designed by Bowser himself and emulates him as a character, if that makes any sense. Easily a top 10 track in Mario Kart World, no questions asked. Great question mark block ruins is a textbook example of a short and sweet Mario Kart track. This track is filled to the brim with exciting paths to choose from that involve Mario Kart World's mechanics and utilize them extremely well. I can't talk about this track without mentioning the ultra shortcut at the end of the race that feels extremely good to hit if you can pull it off. Personally, I've never been able to do it, but I'm assuming that landing that shortcut has got to be one of the best feelings in this game, which is one reason why this track is at the top of the A tier in 8th place. The theme of this track is also one that I really like, and I'm honestly surprised it's never been done before. This is an insanely niche concept that I find really translated into a unique and well-built track. This track is short, sweet, and packs a great balance of both theme and drivability into one very neat little package. Next track. I really had to debate whether I wanted to slip this track and the previous track into the bottom of the S tier, but in the end, Great Question Block Ruins and Toad's Factory will round out the top of A tier. Anyways, what is there to say about this track that hasn't already been said? It's a certified hood classic. And it's even better in this game than it was in Mario Kart Wii. First of all, the music on this track is amazing. Even better than the original, so it's already enjoyable to play for that aspect alone, kind of like Koopa Troopa Beach is. What makes it even better than Koopa Troopa Beach, however, is that it's actually fun to drive with all the added shortcuts and paths in this version of the game, including the double crane shortcut, which feels absolutely amazing to pull off. I was actually able to do the shortcut this time, so that's even better.
Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
The original Toad's Factory was good, but this one is even better, hence why it rounds out the top of the A tier in 7th place. Now we're getting to the best track in Mario Kart World at the S tier, the top 6. Let's get right into the top 6 in S tier. Let me be honest here and admit that this track makes it to S tier mainly because this is my favorite track in the game aesthetically, besides one other track that you probably already know is coming up shortly. This track is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. I love the design of this cave in the ground that is full of plant life in the water and bitty bugs just leisurely flying around in this beautiful cavern. I can't put into words just how gorgeous this track is. It's a blast to drive through over and over again just for the eyes alone. This track isn't half bad to drive on as well because it has a few paths that use elements of what makes this game special to create alternate paths outside of the cave and inside of the cave. This track is a masterclass that I believe serves as a benchmark as to what an S tier track looks like in Mario Kart World. A track that is aesthetically pleasing with many alternate paths, good use of Mario Kart World's mechanics, and is overall fun track to drive. This is what an S tier track looks like, and you need to be better than this track to make it into the S rank. End of story. Airship Fortress is the first track that's better than Dandelion Depths, and the first track to appear in the top 5. I already loved this course on the DS, so when it got announced for Mario Kart World, I knew for sure that would be one of the best tracks in the game, and sure enough, I was right. This track looks even better than it did on the DS, and its theming, while basic, is executed really well. Also, the music on this track goes insanely hard for no good reason, even more so than it did on the DS. I also love the new routes you can take on this track that are Mario Kart World exclusive, like the rail path on the bridge leading to a huge shortcut. This track is simply a track that was already amazing, made even better by Mario Kart World. A solid addition to this game that should have been brought back way sooner. Crown City has got to be the second best Mario Kart World original track in the entire game, just behind the course we're about to get to. First off, this track has one of the best new soundtracks in the entire game. It sounds like they used an automaton, but it's really good. It's so fun to listen to while driving through this huge city with 3 different unique laps that are all equally as good as one another, that standard being phenomenal. This track is the perfect beginner course with rail shortcuts and regular shortcuts, palm tree shortcuts, you name a type of shortcut, and this track has at least one of it. This track is just so fun, and the design of it while being a city track is still unique enough to make this track not boring thematically. Unfortunately, there are a few tracks that push this course out of the top 3, and speaking of, let's end this list by getting right into the top 3 Mario Kart World tracks in the game. Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road is easily the best looking and best original track from this game. I remember when me and my friend first unlocked this track, we were blown away just by the spectacle of this track and its 4 unique, beautiful segments that combine to make a blessing for the eye. The aesthetic of this track alone is the pinnacle of what makes Rainbow Road, and that's exactly why I have this track so high up on the list. The design of this track carries the course all the way up here, and it could have been number 1 if some portions of the track weren't really simple drives like lap 1 and lap 4, for example. The lap where you get to drive on that Mario Galaxy 2 themed space is really fun, but some of the other laps are more boring than others because of the lack of different paths and Mario Kart World exclusive bits. If this track was a better drive mechanically, this could have been the greatest track in the history of Mario Kart. But I think there are two more courses that are better than this course, starting with Dino Jungle is the best reimagining of an OG course in this entire game, no question about it. The original track was very simple and quite frankly pretty lackluster, but in this game they revitalized this track perfectly. I love the Jurassic Park theme of this map with how they added the Triceratops and the giant Tyrannosaurus Rex along with the research laboratory. This track has everything I'd want out of a dinosaur themed track, and it's not just the theming that's really good, it's also just really fun to play. Being able to ride up the Brachiosaurus' neck, trick into the laboratory's secret shortcut, being able to drive up the Triceratops, this whole track is just a blast to play, and is way better than the original track. This is what Faraway Oasis should have been in all honesty. This track existing almost makes that track pointless to me because this track is just so damn good that I'd never pick the other animal themed course in this game. I absolutely adore this track for everything it has to offer, and let's not forget the music. The music remix on this track is phenomenal. I swear to God, this track just does everything right and nothing wrong. It's actually nearly perfect in my opinion. However, there's one other track that I think is more fun than this track that is the best track in Mario Kart World. So, let's get to the #1 best Mario Kart World track. Wario Stadium is the best track in the game, hands down. This track is a perfect example of how to use Mario Kart World's elements to make a previous track the best it can possibly be. This track has so many different ways to be played that it's fun to just mess around and try to drive this track in every possible way. Drive on every rail, ride on every wall, trick on every bump. This track is just so damn fun and has plenty of shortcuts that utilize what makes Mario Kart World great to its fullest potential, and I love it. Like, even when you're fucking up on this track, it's still one of the greatest tracks in the game because it's still just fun. This track is also just a perfect stadium track with huge jumps and details that make this track an actually well-designed stadium track, unlike the other boring stadium tracks in this game. The decision to put this track as #1 mainly comes down to this being the most fun track to play on in this entire game for me, and the music makes that experience even better than it already was. This track is the perfect Mario Kart World redesign, and I'm so glad Nintendo decided to make at least one stadium track actually good. This is what stadium tracks should be. A crazy stadium where you can trick off of everything and take different paths at every corner. In the future, Nintendo should try to make more Mario Kart World tracks that are like this. Wario Stadium is my pick for the best track in Mario Kart World as a whole. There you have it. That's the definitive, unbiased, true list for how every Mario Kart World track should be ranked from worst to best. This list has no controversial picks whatsoever and should be followed by every member of the Mario Kart World community till the end of time. In all seriousness though, let me know in the comments what you think the most horrendous take on this list was and where you think it should really be ranked. Anyways, hopefully this video came out before Schafrillas' video, but if it didn't, my fault. But with that out of the way, I'm gonna go now. Have a great day, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.